Hello and welcome to Long Beach Lens. I am your host, Derek J. Simpson, Executive Director of the Long Beach Community Action Partnership. Today, our first guest is the Director of Economic Development for the City of Long Beach. Please join me in welcoming Mr. John Keisler. How are you, sir?
I'm well, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. We get to work on different projects in the community, and as I got to know you and know what you do in the City of Long Beach more, I thought it was important to share for the greater community to have a deeper understanding so that people could be more engaged and hopefully more supportive in the things that you're involved with. But as I was reading about you for this show, I read something about philosophy and religion as your background as well. So share a little bit about John the man before we get into John, the Executive Director.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and that's a long story, but it all begins.
We only have 12 minutes.
Well, it all begins. As a young person, I was trying to figure out, the meaning of life, and so that's where you begin in studying.
I'm still trying to figure it out. So.
But what it was amazing is I got to go to school. I got to go to college in Minnesota, and I studied philosophy and religion, and what it really did was it focused me on public service. It focused me on helping others and making my community a better place. And so I've been blessed. I became a school teacher after college. I went into a school in Newark, New Jersey, where we served a low-income community, Dr. Martin Luther King Elementary School. I was a 7th and 8th grade teacher there, and that's what really got me excited about the opportunity to work in city government, where I could help work on public safety, education, economic development, all those things that help support the families of the students that I taught. So that's how I got into government and ultimately working on these issues of economic development.
Now, when you joined Long Beach, before your present position, you were involved with the I-Team and other initiatives. Share a little insight for people who don't know about those things in case they're interested as well.
Yeah, well, Long Beach is an amazing city, 500,000 people. So we provide a full service from the police department to Parks, Rec, and Marine. I worked in the animal control agency as well. And I've been able to move around over the last 13 years into different departments and learn a lot about how the city works. Most recently, before becoming the Economic Development Director, I was able to work on the city's first innovation team through the city manager's office. And the purpose of the innovation team really is to look for ways that we can make government work better for people. And so we were implementing a new approach we call design thinking to really focus on the user experience. So what is it like to be a resident in North Long Beach or to be a small business? What kind of support do you need to help you succeed? And so we studied those issues by studying people. So that's where my philosophy degree comes in. And ultimately we designed government services around people and then use the insights and the lessons we learned to build programs and then ultimately, in some cases, policy changes.
I love the concept of design thinking. I learned about it and know that it's up at Stanford, but that's how I tell people design thinking was how Apple created the mouse by looking at what people needed in order to be more efficient on the computer.
That's right.
I want to read this quote. You said, "I'm dedicated to helping Long Beach grow in terms of jobs, business, relocation and expansion, and overall economic activity, while at the same time strengthening the unique character of our many wonderful neighborhoods." That was a quote that I read. And when you hear that quote and you think about your current role, how do you see that all coming together, John?
Yeah, well, I think it goes back about 70 years when my grandparents first arrived in Long Beach. They lived in North Long Beach. My dad was born and raised there and went to Jordan High School, Cal State Long Beach. And then when my wife and I decided to settle somewhere, we first started out in Belmont Shore, and then we moved up to East Long Beach around Hartwell Park and going to Patrick Henry School. And what I've found by living in these different areas of the city is that each one of the 82 distinct neighborhoods in the city has an identity and has a cultural network and resources that are unique. In economic development, our goal is to help people make more money and to create the type of environment that they want for themselves and their families. So understanding the unique aspects, the culture, the history of each of our neighborhoods is the starting place. And that's what also makes us unique as a city. And whether it's the downtown, the west side, or Central Long Beach, we want to help the people and the businesses to grow in place so that they can provide a unique experience for customers, consumers, as well as residents, and that you can't get anywhere else in the world. Long Beach is diverse, and that's one of our advantages, our unique competitive advantages in the market.
Now, if I'm a small business owner or an aspiring entrepreneur, is your department where I should come for such insight, or who is your customer base primarily in that regard?
Absolutely. So we are what I like to call the Economic Development Department of the future. Okay. And the council and the mayor made a strategic decision about 3 years ago to reconstitute our Economic Development Department. And one of the challenges I was given when I went through the process was I got asked, what does the future of economic development look like for cities? And number one, it's about building your economic development strategy around people. That's number one. We used to focus on just property and redevelopment of real estate. Now cities are focusing a lot more on design thinking, user-centered design, and saying, how is it that we can help all people make more money and thrive? So we have three key, we'll call them legs of the stool. One is business development, so it's helping entrepreneurs work for themselves, start their businesses, grow, and employ other people. The second one is workforce development. That's working for other people. So we help businesses find skilled workforce, and sometimes we even use our federal workforce development funds to pay for their training, their recruitment. Sometimes we even pay a portion of their salaries to help small businesses employ residents of Long Beach. And then finally, real estate development. That's where you see us going out to attract investment, as well as to help developers and buyers of property to navigate the development process. So we say that we create economic opportunity for workers, investors, and entrepreneurs, all three. So no matter how you make your money, we can help.
Now, I know that Long Beach also has business improvement districts. Are they under your auspices as well, or is that a different area of the city?
Yeah, business improvement districts are really one of those critical strategies that cities can help to support and enable to provide more resources closer to the unique neighborhoods and commercial corridors throughout the city. So you don't take a one-size-fits-all approach. What you do is you work with public-private partnerships. Business improvement districts are nonprofits that function to really help the businesses create a unique commercial corridor for their visitors, residents, and customers. And so we have 10 in the city. They all have different identities. 4th Street looks a lot different than Belmont Shore, looks a lot different than downtown, the Long Beach Alliance, or Bixby Knolls. Each of those bids has an executive director who partner with the city. We provide them support, we provide them navigational services, we even provide them small loans and help their businesses to thrive. And by that public-private partnership, we're able to get more service on the street, and it's delivered in a unique way that addresses the unique character of each of those neighborhoods.
Now, speaking of unique, something that I wasn't very aware of, we both attended an event maybe a month or so ago for VIP Records, and there was a loan fund, if I were to call it that, of sorts, that was brought up by one of your team there. Can you share some insight on that for people who might be interested?
Yeah, that's another good example of user-centered design. So when we, the city, established our small business loan programs through the Small Business Administration and through the Economic Development Administration. These are federal agencies. They partner with cities to offer low-interest loans, as well as to provide the technical assistance and support for small businesses to access these low-interest loans and then help develop the business plan to repay them. So for years, we've had programs that started at about $25,000 and go up to as much as $2 million. However, we discovered through our outreach that there were many entrepreneurs that didn't have any credit. They didn't have good credit. They didn't need $25,000. Maybe they needed that first $10,000 loan. So identifying that gap in the market, we partnered with a financial technology company called Kiva, and we now offer micro loans. And what is the advantage there is that Long Beach Community Foundation, as well as a nonprofit called LISC, are able to come together to support the entrepreneur. They get a no-fee no interest loan. There's nothing like it on the market. It has no fees, it has no interest, but the entrepreneur is able to access this capital because Long Beach residents become lenders. And you can lend as little as $25, you get repaid. 98% of these loans get repaid throughout the world. Kiva has done over 1 billion loans worldwide. And as a partner with the city, if one of our entrepreneurs comes through the city program, like VIP as a trustee, if the entrepreneur comes through that trustee, that loan is free, there's no interest, and there's an accelerator fund, which means they raise $2,500, we match it with $2,500.
Wow.
If they raise $5,000, we match it with $5,000. So it's a much quicker process to get them funded.
We only have 2 minutes, and what you just talked about with Kiva is a show in itself. It's just so appealing to on so many levels. But if people want to know more about Kiva, do they just reach out to your office, or is there a website they go to? What's the process?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for this opportunity to promote.
Yeah.
So if you go to longbeach.gov, which is the city's website, we are the Economic Development Department. So longbeach.gov/economic development, you are able to find our small business resources in one of the drop downs, and it'll tell you how to get involved with Kiva, connect with our staff, and we'll get you going today.
Elevator pitch. If you were talking to someone on the street about your department and why they should care, what would you say to them?
Well, first and foremost, our job is to help you make more money. So everybody wants to make more money, whether you're a worker, an investor, or an entrepreneur. And our city, the city of Long Beach, is a tremendous city of opportunity for people on all of those fronts. Our mayor and city council are business friendly. They're also worker friendly. They're also real estate development friendly. And they really do want to see us provide more affordable housing, spaces for entrepreneurs to start their businesses and grow. And we can provide support across all those areas. So come to our website, check out the Economic Development Blueprint, which is the City Council, their plan for the next 10 years, and see where it is that you fit in. Let us know how we can help.
Thank you, John. We're out of time, but we're not out of questions, so we'll bring you back soon, okay?
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Great. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we will speak with the editor for the Long Beach Business Journal, Samantha Mehlinger. Stay tuned for more of Long Beach Lens. Welcome back. I'm Derek J. Simpson. Our next guest is the editor for the Long Beach Business Journal. Please join me in welcoming Samantha Mehlinger. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good, good. So we met face to face for the first time at the Fountains unveiling, and it was very cool meeting you there. And though I've been fortunate to be in the Long Beach Business Journal as a topic in some of your writings, I'd never met really the team. So I'm really excited about having you on. But before we get into what your role is there, share your journey and how you became the editor.
Okay, great. My journey to journalism was maybe not typical. I studied creative writing in college. I got a bachelor's of fine arts at Chapman in creative writing and fiction, actually. And following up, went to Cal State Long Beach and got an MFA. I actually got into journalism by writing about theater for a publication called LA Stage Times at the encouragement of a professor. I'd taken a theater abroad course and sort of developed a knack for it. So I started at the Business Journal about 6 months after I graduated with my MFA, and as a staff writer, and didn't know much about business and the industries around town, and kind of like drinking through a fire hose, as they say.
Sure
But after about a year and a half, I was promoted to senior writer and later assistant editor, and as of January, I'm now the editor.
Now, as the editor, what does that entail in terms of the duties and responsibilities that some may or may not know?
Sure. Well, some people think being the editor means I copy edit it, meaning I read through and I edit folks' work. But actually, my main responsibility is planning out every edition, determining what stories we want to cover. We have our news stories. Every edition has a different focus planned ahead of time on an industry. Right now we're covering hospitality and tourism, which is one of our largest industries in Long Beach. So we reach out, to the CVB. We're talking about the fountains. I also give out assignments to our staff, coordinate photography. I'm in charge of managing the website, our email blasts.
There's not much left.
A little bit of
right?
everything. Yes, a little bit of everything.
Right.
Basically, make sure everything runs smoothly.
Is that sort of the norm then for smaller publications? I say smaller is all relevant as to how small or large one is, but would an editor typically be doing all the roles that you are?
I think we have a smaller staff than most, but our publication's a little different because we print every 2 weeks.
Right.
So I do have more time to work with.
Okay.
I do think, though, at smaller local publications, you do see smaller staff sizes and you do see people wearing multiple hats. I still actually do quite a bit of writing as well for the journal, so I think that's becoming more and more common.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know with our own major local newspaper, the Press Telegram, there have been some major changes happening there. How do you perceive that impact being in terms of how things of importance get covered? I mean, do you guys see taking on a larger share of that responsibility, or are you at liberty to say just,
Well, I mean, we do have those discussions internally. We're not a daily newspaper.
Right.
We have a pretty niche role in terms of covering the business community, but we do cover community events and the nonprofit community and City Hall news. We've started to branch into some daily coverage with our daily biz briefs, which are email blasts you can sign up for, and they're on our website. So we're kind of testing it out that way. We don't see ourselves as competing with daily newspapers, and we really feel that having a strong daily newspaper in the city is important to provide that daily coverage, and it has been kind of concerning for me personally to see what's going on, not just with the Press Telegram, but with newspapers across the country, locally owned papers, that I think the issue that you see when they're bought by major corporations that are not in touch with local communities, the first things they do are to slash newsrooms and shuffle around reporters who've been covering their communities for years. And then what happens is you lose the ties to the communities, you sort of lose your local brands, and then I think you end up with what we're seeing today.
When you think about someone listening who may be in the world of business, either as an entrepreneur or as a corporation, how would they pitch a story to you if they felt like everyone thinks that their world is the most important world, but
Sure.
how do you go about that decision process as to, like you mentioned, tourism was something that you're covering on a grander
Right.
scale. How is that process taking place?
Well, in a whole bunch of different ways.
Okay.
I get cold calls and pitches all the time. That's
sure you
another
do.
part of my job. I'm always interested in hearing from local entrepreneurs, business people, even people in nonprofits who are addressing an unmet need or who are innovating in some way, or maybe even a longtime business that just hasn't really put their story out there, but that's really successful. It's also helpful if you're in a specific industry, say you're a logistics business. We do have our calendar online, so you can see what we're going to be covering industry-wise in advance. And if
Okay.
you have a story that fits in with that sector, you can kind of look at our calendar and pitch us a few weeks in advance.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's a smart way to go about it
That
then.
is- that's-
And is your calendar for like the entire 2018 that you already
It
planned
is,
out? Or-
and it's subject to change, but for the
Right.
most part, we stick to it. Yeah,
Okay.
that's available on our website under advertising.
Okay. What about collaborations? Are there ever collaborations that you look at in terms of, well, I'll be selfish and say, like, let's say PadNet TV. I mean, having you on introduces you to our audience, but
Sure.
conversely, it could be, the reverse.
Yeah.
But are there other opportunities out there that you would look for in that regard to include the community?
It's something that we've discussed. We
Okay.
haven't really gotten into. As I mentioned, we do have a small staff
Right.
and tough deadlines to meet,
Yeah.
so we haven't branched out into that too much, but we have discussed, I know there was conversation once about, is there a way we could get on the radio or provide information, from the Long Beach Business Journal to a local news station. I know there's one that's going to be starting up soon, actually.
Right.
Or, I could see us working with you as well, but
Yeah.
just the sort of thing that would take time, I think.
Right, and like you said, with limited resources, you have to have
Exactly.
priorities, and the priority is that paper is due in next 2 weeks, so
That's right.
you have to stay on top of that.
That's right.
What are some of the trends, Samantha, that you see from a business perspective that maybe surprise you or maybe you're excited about, especially in our community when you look at the business community of Long Beach?
I think one of the really cool things that's happening in Long Beach is within places like WeWork, where you have sort of a way for a business to rent space cheaply and start up. Getting into an actual space is difficult for a lot of businesses,
Right.
those startup costs. And there's a lot of turnover with businesses like that, but it's sort of like an incubator type environment. Those are really neat and interesting. I've also seen some larger established companies like Laserfish up in Bixby Knolls starting to grow exponentially, and they have plans to actually now kind of give back to the community by, their CEO told me he's going to open up space within a new building they're planning to incubate new tech companies in Long Beach. So those are kind of interesting trends I'm
So it's
seeing.
like a larger company mentoring a smaller
Yeah, and there's a
operation.
lot of that in Long Beach. Long Beach is pretty
Yeah.
community-minded. I think you'll
cool.
find other businesses here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, as I was reading the Business Journal, I get it here, and I pick it up in different locations as well if I don't get it here. So I'm an avid reader. I read something about Millennial Pulse. Tell us what that is.
Okay, Millennial Pulse is an every issue column. You'll see it on the front page. I author it every time, and it was actually our baby boomer publisher's idea. We sort of noticed that there was a lot of conversation going on about the millennial generation.
There is.
As there should be. I'm a millennial.
And I'm a boomer.
We're coming up, and we stand to inherit a lot of wealth, and we make up the majority of the workforce now.
Yes, you do.
But there's a lot of stereotypes out there about the millennial generation that people find, I think, sort of fun
Yeah. What would be one?
to throw around. That we all still live at home, or that we're lazy, or we all spend all of our money on avocado toast. Those are a few. So my boss just said, here's this column idea and run with it. And I decided to look at it as, well, who are we really?
Right.
Has there been any research done? Can I interview anybody about this subject? And then sort of my own reflection. So it's a chance for me to exercise that creative writing muscle that I have.
How's it been received?
Very well, actually. I find that people who may not typically read the Business Journal have started reading it because of that column.
Yeah.
It's sort of a fun entry into some of the more business-oriented stuff
I think
we've
you
got
guys have a
going on.
good balance of having the business focus, but also a human interest focus. Even I believe the Leadership Long Beach class was on the front cover, the first Leadership Long Beach class, and I was honored to be the first alumnus of the year of Leadership Long Beach.
Oh, really?
In the class of, and I was in the class of '92, but in '94. We only have 2 minutes left. When you think about the Long Beach Business Journal and your vision looking forward, what would you like to see, and how can this community help you support that vision becoming a reality?
I just want to make sure that we continue to serve our community by providing the really important business coverage that we always have been, by ensuring that we represent all aspects of that community, whether that's women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses as well. I want to make sure that we're reaching out into the community in as many ways and as far reach as possible. I always tell people they're welcome to call and email me. Anybody can get me on the phone. So yeah.
Yeah, and for us as a community, just know that we appreciate your work. I enjoy reading your work personally, but I enjoy, as I said, the depth and breadth of what the Business Journal brings to the community. So thank you for everything that you and your colleagues do. And I look forward to ways that we can collaborate going forward to help get the word out about what's going on there.
Absolutely.
At the Business Journal and in our community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, we're out of time. Okay, but
Appreciate
I'd
it.
like to thank John Keisler and Samantha Mehlinger for joining us on today's show. Be sure to follow PadNet TV on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest updates. We also welcome your comments and thoughts regarding this show as we strive to make Long Beach Lens a favorite source of local news, information, and entertainment. This show has been brought to you with support from the Long Beach Community Action Partnership. Thank you for watching Long Beach Lens.